Go on afterward. As we were filing in and saying hello to everybody, I hugged Terry, and she said, "So, you're ready to speak?" And I said, "I'm not sure I'd quite use that word, and prepared isn't quite the word either, but I will do the best that I can." My name is Greg. I've known Mike since I joined the station back in 1995, so we're talking around 30 years. I think I'm going to spend most of my time talking about travel, which I don't think too many other people have done too much of tonight. That is that frequently when I would say to Mike that I'm going to Paris or I'm going to New York, I would very quickly in my inbox get a long list of things to go to, primarily restaurants, and they were of the order of, so you're going to Paris, all right, go to the Pompidou, there's this weird little alley that goes down this way. If you go down, right where it turns is this really great restaurant, and if you go a little bit beyond that, there's a creepy puppet museum that you need to go to. And he was right on every single occasion. Every restaurant recommendation that Mike would give was absolutely amazing, which of course is not surprising to anybody here. Specifically, he introduced me to Sharpen's, which I'm seeing nods from the audience. If you have not been to Sharpen's in New York, you have to go to Sharpen's in New York. It is by far the strangest eating establishment that I have ever been to. And Mike would constantly tell stories about John Cusack going to Sharpen's and having interactions with Kenny Sharpen, who was the proprietor at the time, and being kind of cowed into silence by this very, very strange, foul-mouthed New Yorker. Kenny Sharpen was a legend in his own time. There's a film about him called I Like Killing Flies, which I also encourage anybody to see, because Mike also pointed me towards that documentary. I keep a travel journal whenever I go, and I was trying to remember the specifics of when I actually went with Mike and Terry and Rocco to go to Sharpen's, which was in 2013. I happened to be there for another reason, but Tony Rizzi was performing with a Robert Wilson show, and so it just so happened that we were in New York at the same time. So that day of the performance at the Armory, I met up with Rocco and Terry and Mike at Sharpen's. Sharpen's, for instance, is a place where you can get red pudding French toast. And I think Rocco was busy making very strange faces over a banana milkshake for breakfast. And one thing that strikes me as a very Mike Rizzi kind of experience is that we jumped on, after going to Sharpen's, we jumped on what Mike called the Tony train, which means that you basically took a swift tour through New York, and we went up to Penny Arcade's apartment in New York, and then we were leaving there to go to the Armory to go and visit backstage before the performance to meet up with Willem Dafoe and Marina Abramovich, who were also in the performance. And I had accidentally left my bag in Penny Arcade's apartment. So I wasn't able to go and meet Willem Dafoe and Marina Abramovich because I had to go back to Penny Arcade's apartment to pick up my bags. And I'm thinking, this could only be in a Mike Rizzi context, or that sentence could actually happen. That if you just happened to be around Mike, you would get thrown into these scenarios that you couldn't possibly imagine having gotten to in any other way. I remember going to a Calexico performance at, I believe it was the Greek Theater, and Mike was there and Rocco was there, and Mike said, "Oh, you come over here. Calexico are the #1 president of the Rocco fan club." And getting to meet Calexico, who were completely uninterested in anybody else except for Rocco. And that's one other thing that has been coming up to my mind as I was thinking about what I was going to say. I was going to say that Mike was, since my brother and my niece are not here, I can say this, Mike is probably the proudest father I have ever encountered of anybody. Whenever you would go and see him, he would, and if you just started chatting, invariably he would say, "Oh, this is what Rocco is doing. Here's a performance that Rocco just did. Here's the audition rehearsal that he did in order to get into, this particular program." But then I was thinking that it's the same way they did whenever I would meet up with him. He said, my brother Tony has his own particular dance piece, which is a lot weirder than the Robert Wilson piece. Here, you need to take a look at this video as well. Or talking about Terry, and that it wasn't just that he was a proud father, he was proud of everybody who was in his family. And then I started to think that it actually expands out to the people who would go to Thanksgiving. The Thanksgiving's question was, how did he do that Thanksgiving? He did it because he cooked the entire week of Thanksgiving, but he would have essentially a Thanksgiving for orphans and weirdos, and you would start at noon, and you were lucky if it ended by midnight, maybe 1 or 2 in the morning sometimes, and people didn't always make it all the way through Thanksgiving. There were 13, 14, 15 courses with a different wine for each course, and that was also an extension of family, and that he had an outpouring of love for who his family was, and his family included basically everybody in this room. He had a huge, huge extended family. And to kind of go on from what Will was saying about the sort of the contrary or the contradictory nature, you don't think of, the blue-haired eminent punk noise aficionado as being a family man. Family man seems like a weird word to apply, but it's absolutely the appropriate word, and it is absolutely I think, the highest compliment that you could give to him. Thank you.